So Kirsty, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But
thank you so much.
you're welcome. Before we walk into the future, Kirsty, can you tell us a little bit about your own background? Where did you grow up?
Yep, so I'm from New Zealand. I grew up in a very small dairy, on a dairy farm in Inglewood. Inglewood is in the province of Taranaki on the west coast of the North Island, and did my whole schooling there in Inglewood, and then went off to university in Auckland, and I studied in university piano, performance piano. So one of my big loves is music. So much so that I chose that to be what I thought would be my first career. And ultimately, as a concert pianist, was where I was tracking that direction. Through an accident with my finger and the lawnmower, mowing my grandmother's lawns, that stopped the career of being a performance pianist and started me on a career of being a teacher. So my early career, I taught music and mathematics back in my home province of Taranaki. And spent about 4 or 5 years teaching before I embarked on what's turned into a very long overseas experience, originally intended to be 2 years, and I have spent the last almost 20 years living abroad.
And Kirsty, can you tell us who inspired you in your early days?
Big inspiration for me my whole life has been my mother. I'm one of 4 children. I'm the youngest. I've got 3 older brothers. All 4 of us, mum had under 5. And yeah, what she managed to juggle on top of, running the dairy farm with my dad, having 4 young children, all of us who were involved in music, all of us were involved in sport, all of us were in guides and scouts, and just her ability to be able to lead our family, manage us, and really ultimately set us all up to be the successful individuals that we are today. She was and remains sort of what I aspire to as a leader, and as a mom myself.
And Kirsty, you've grown the training room into a global brand. You're teaching many, many future leaders across the world. Looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point where things could have gone different?
There's been many turning points, to be honest, Nick. I think the one that I'm going to most reflect on was how this company actually came to being. So when I arrived in Cape Town, which was in 2005, I'd actually established a couple of businesses in the UK, not related to learning, not related to music or any of my passions there, different sectors. And in Cape Town, I established a call centre, and was running the UK operations from a call centre in Cape Town. And I reflect back on those days, and I think, I'd never been to the African continent. I'd never been to South Africa, never been to Cape Town. And a lot of the young people that were coming to apply for jobs in the contact centre at that time, I just really started to see a trend of where their educational levels were at versus, as a teacher, what I would have expected their educational levels to be. And that really sort of made me start to look back at, what was happening from an educational point of view in South Africa, more broadly in Africa, and in fact, more broadly globally. Where was education up to? I've been out of it for a few years, and sort of really seeing a disconnect in many ways between access to good quality teaching and learning experiences and the advancement of technology, and the realization that the two of those together was something which I was both passionate about, but there was an enormous need for it, and something that I could really kind of throw my heart and soul behind a business. And starting the training room online in 2008 to developing it to where we are now, as you say, into a global business, has been, I guess, one of the greatest experiences that I've had the opportunity to do. So big turning point coming to Cape Town.
So Kirsty, what would you say is driving you today?
So I'm driven by the same purpose and passion that I had when I started the training room online. We design, deliver transformational learning experiences where technology always underpins and enables that delivery. And through that enablement is what brings access. And for me, being able to create learning experiences that are accessible to whole nations, to organizations with large numbers of employees in them to solutions for small businesses across Aotearoa. All of these things, the impact that we can create with the work that we produce is really, really rewarding, the work that we do, really inspirational journeys that come off the back of people that we've educated through various different programs we've created. So I love the empowerment, I love changing people's lives, and we'll continue to be passionate to do that as our journey continues.
Now, Kirsty, looking into the future, what would you say does the future of leadership mean to you?
I think from a future of leadership perspective, I really believe there's a lot of future in collaborations. We often talk about creating ecosystems, and to be able to create things that are truly transformational requires collaboration and requires partnership. So for me, future of leadership is looking at how to create meaningful, or continue to create and grow meaningful partnerships. I think the future of leadership is being able to look forward and acknowledge the different types of talent and skills that your own organization and other organizations are going to need. And how do we make sure that through a continuum of lifelong learning, we are developing young people through our education system to have the potential to be the future leaders, because we're developing them with the right sets of skills to be employable and to go on and be successful in whatever career they choose. So I think the future of leadership, collaboration, and people are the two things that really, really stand out for me to be focused on and to get right.
Now, Kirsty, your work is all about enabling, empowering future leaders. As a society, what would you say do we have to do more to empower future leaders and to enable them?
We need to get the gap between education and employment closed. And to do that, we need public-private partnerships. We need government to be able to acknowledge the role that private sector can play in supporting the delivery of quality learning to our children. I think we need to be able to understand from an industry point of view, where is industry going? What are the future skills? What are the current skills and what are the future skills? So the gap between education and employment can close, and we ensure that we are not creating our young people to be in a place where they don't have access to opportunity from an economic point of view.
And Kirsty, when you speak to aspiring leaders, what is it that you tell them about social media? How should they navigate social media to build their own leadership brand?
I think social media has got a big role to play. For me personally, being active on LinkedIn from the beginning of this journey, so both at an organizational level as well as at a personal level, started really looking more from a thought leadership, my own personal brand. What does Kirsty want to share with the world versus what does the organization share with the world? So whilst there's some vision alignment, there's also just some of the things that we are doing and some of the things that I believe, it's not necessarily always the same. So started to consciously try to write a thought leadership piece each month. You'll look back on my LinkedIn and see there's some gaps. So time doesn't always allow me to get that done, but we thought through a series of, what is it that we want to talk about? What is it that I want to share to other leaders, to my peers, to my colleagues, around the space of education, because it's such an important topic, and the development of our talent, the development of our future leaders is something that we all have a role to play.
Now, Kirsty, these are challenging times. And what is your advice for future leader in terms of challenges? What challenges should they expect to encounter and hopefully overcome in their career?
I think the pandemic has taught us a lot around this space of future leaders. So I don't think anybody actually had prepared for or thought through the impact of global pandemic, lockdowns, work from home, live from home, learn from home, a complete adjustment in our lives. So I think from a future leaders, I think resilience is something that we all need to, I think we all strengthened our resilience through COVID, and I think we don't know what those things might be. We can't necessarily predict what our biggest challenges are. I think talent is going to become a big issue going forward. The unknown around what talent we actually need in 3 to 5 years from now, the pace at which automation, digitization, the fourth industrial revolution is driving change in skill sets and displacing many people out of what they thought was a steady career path. I think, in there, we've got a lot of work to do. And as leaders, we need to be supporting government. So again, back to public-private partnership, we need to be supporting nations and our nation's leaders in this talent and development space.
And Kirsty, if you were to design, and maybe you're doing it already, to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills you would want to factor in?
Yeah, I think definitely a lot in the digital space, understanding data. So really being able to understand data across all aspects of your organization. I think that the adoption of digital from leadership throughout organizations and how we do that is something that I would build into the curriculum. A lot of the how, very practically, how do we do that? How do we identify skills? How do we identify talent? And I think some of the, what are often called soft skills, but I think really essential skills and the critical thinking, the problem solving, the sort of the creative design process around designing things that are new, that haven't been done before, and designing different business models, thinking through the disruption that is happening in businesses and in industries, and how do you be a disruptor as opposed to being disrupted, but being aware of the risks of both. I think there's some of the things that I'd factor into a new leading curriculum.
Thanks, Kirsty. And as a mentor to so many future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader, formally or informally, and that person took your advice to heart?
Yeah, I can do that. So I'm very lucky in the last 2 years that I've been a mentor for the Invest Africa program in partnership with the Said Business School, part of the Oxford University. And I've had a different mentee that I've worked through as they've been doing the MBA program. And the first lady that I mentored the year before last just went on such a transformational journey over the 12 months that we were in a mentor-mentee relationship, and went on to just get the most amazing sort of job of her dreams once she defined through the process what that actually looked like. And to see her thriving and striving ahead in that, she's a definite aspirational leader. She's inspirational in her own story, and it was just a privilege to be able to be part of a journey where seeing somebody evolve so significantly through her experience at the business school, and I guess me observing on the side how she blossomed through that period.
So Kirsty, how can our listeners get hold of you, connect with you, and where should they follow you?
So LinkedIn, absolutely. I'm trying to have a good presence, as I would encourage all future leaders to have a good presence on LinkedIn and be part of thought leadership and be present. Our company website, www.ttro.com. And yes, I'm always accessible through there. And very open for anybody watching that has any specific questions or wants to discuss partnership, wants to explore ideas, to reach out. I really believe in partnerships and collaboration.
And last but not least, Kirsty, what is your advice for school learners who are now looking to leave school, to enter the world of work, to start their own career? What is maybe 1 or 2 success factors they should keep in mind?
I would say to explore entrepreneurship within the options. I think understanding what are your options to actually be your own creator of something from a business point of view. I think sometimes entrepreneurship is not understood as an option for people leaving school and thinking they've got to enter into a career and go and get a job. I think opportunities in entrepreneurship are abound, and I think small medium enterprise has got a huge role to play post-COVID in economic recovery for countries. It's a really empowering journey to be on. So I would certainly explore that. And I think my other advice would be to look forward at an industry and look forward at the trajectory that industry is going on. The trajectory of banking, for example. Banks are transforming into platform businesses. There is so much disruption that is happening. So when you're planning and looking forward, plan to see yourself there and what that industry might look like in time, and acquire the skills that you need. So skills acquisition for me is also not necessarily always in the form of higher education, formal learning. I think there's skills acquisition happens every day, and every day that you are learning and reading, our journey of learning has to be lifelong. We can never stop learning and acquiring new skills that take us to new places.
Well, Kirsty, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and leading the way and enabling so many future leaders.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.